You're born in Baltimore, Maryland, June 30th, 1985. You're the youngest of three. Your father, a state trooper, strict, cold. Your mom, a school principal, tough, tireless, unbreakable. You grow up in a storm of shouting matches and closed doors. At 9 years old, your parents split. The world breaks in two. You stop trusting people. You stop talking. You hide in yourself. And then you find water. Not at the beach. Not in a lake, but in a pool. A small rectangle filled with silence. It feels like floating in a different world. No shouting, no pressure. Just the rhythm of your own arms slicing through calm. But you don't just swim, you fly. Your wings, your arms, longer than anyone's. By 10, you break a national record. By 12, another. By 14, you're on the US national team. You're not like other kids. ADHD runs wild through your brain. You can't sit still. You can't stop moving. But in the water, you find control. The pool doesn't judge. The pool doesn't ask questions. It just gives you lanes. And you own them. 2000 Sydney. You're 15 years old. The youngest male swimmer to represent the US at the Olympics in 68 years. You look out of place. Too young, too quiet, too calm. But behind your goggles, fire. You don't medal that year, but you make the final in the 200 neon butterfly, and the world notices. You go home hungry, not for food, not for praise, but for perfection. 2001, you break your first world record at 15. You're still growing, still learning. By 17, you go pro, endorsements, media, expectations. But you don't smile for the cameras. You smile for the stopwatch. Because every race is a math problem. And you've mastered the numbers. 2004 Athens. You don't show up to participate. You show up to dominate. You swim 8 events. You win 6 golds, 2 bronzes. You break 5 Olympic records, 1 world record. You're 19. Most would celebrate. You barely blink because already your sights are locked on Beijing. And what's coming there? It's not competition. It's history. The stage is set. Beijing, 2008. You've trained for 4 years, 6 hours a day, 365 days a year, no days off. Even on Christmas, you're in the pool. Because gold doesn't care about holidays. You enter the games with a mission. 8 events, 8 golds. To break Mark Spitz's 1972 record. People say it's impossible. Too many races, too much pressure. You say nothing. You let the water speak. First event, gold. Second, gold. Third, world record. You're a machine. Then comes the 100 neon butterfly. Your goggles fill with water. You can't see. You're blind, swimming by instinct. You touch the wall. First, by 0.01 seconds. A blink, a breath, a miracle. The 4S100 relay, Jason Lezak swims like a demon. You scream from the edge of the pool, veins bulging, gold. Finally, the 4S100 medley. You dive in like a rocket. And when you touch that wall, 8 gold medals, 7 world records, 1 Olympic record. You rise from the pool, dripping in history. You are no longer Michael Phelps. You are Poseidon in a swim cap, the greatest Olympian the world has ever seen. And yet, you're still not satisfied. After Beijing, you're on top of the world. Sponsorships, talk shows, global fame. Everyone wants a piece of you. Everyone wants a smile. But inside, you're crumbling. You hate the spotlight. You feel hollow after every race. You begin to ask yourself, is this all there is? 2009, a photo leaks. You smoking from a bong. The media erupts. Fans disappointed. Sponsors pull back. You apologize. But the mask starts to slip. 2012 London Olympics. You win 4 golds, 2 silvers. Any other athlete would cry tears of joy. You You're numb. You retire after the games. Not because you're done, but because you're lost. You spiral. Duis. Isolation. Depression that feels like drowning in the dark. At one point, you sit in your room thinking about ending it. The world sees medals. You see a mirror that won't stop asking, "Who are you without the pool?" And then you reach out. You talk. You cry. You heal. And slowly, you start to swim again. Not for medals, not for history, but for yourself. 2016, Rio de Janeiro. You're back. Older, wiser, different. You walk into the Olympic Village not as a kid, but as a father, a husband, a man reborn. You carry the flag for Team USA. The crowd erupts because they know you came back from hell, and yet you're still the fastest in the water. You swim 5 events, 5 golds, 1 silver. You end your Olympic career with 23 gold medals, 28 total. No even comes close. But this time, it's not about the medals. It's about control, about healing. You laugh more. You hug your teammates. You hold your son, Boomer, as the anthem plays. You finally exhale, and then you retire. For real. But you don't disappear. You become a mental health advocate. You speak about the pain, the fear, the weight of perfection. You tell the world it's okay to not be okay. You create foundations, campaigns, safe spaces. Because your greatest victory was learning how to live outside the pool. So, was it worth it? The 5 a.m. alarms, the cold pools, the pressure, the silence, the loneliness of being the greatest? Ask the stopwatch. Ask the flags hanging above every pool. Ask the kid with ADHD who was told he'd never focus on anything. Your name is etched into time. 28 Olympic medals, 23 golds, countless world records. But more than that, you changed what it meant to be a swimmer, to be an athlete, to be vulnerable. You stood on the podium draped in gold, but your true strength was found when you admitted you were drowning. Because greatness isn't just how far you can push your body, it's how deeply you can know your soul. And you dove deeper than anyone ever dared. Now, you sit poolside, a father, a husband, a voice for the broken. You watch your kids splash in the water. No pressure, no stopwatch, just joy. You smile. Because for once, you're not chasing a record, you're present. And maybe that's the greatest win of all. This was your life as Michael Phelps. You were the boy who felt safest underwater. And you became the man who taught the world how to breathe again. You didn't just break records, you broke limits. And the ripples of your legacy, they'll never stop moving. You lived glory. You felt the pain. You became the legend. This was your legacy. Subscribe to Sport Legacy, where the greatest stories in sports are told as if they were yours, because maybe they are.